Should you buy Battlefield 5 in 2022? Battlefield 5, right from its announcement, was a controversial game for many reasons, from its trailer to its developers basically calling out players, calling them dumb, because they didn't understand women fought in World War II, which is just not what people were complaining about. Well, at least most people were not. You always have that kind of group in a community that decides to take things to the extreme, which never ends well. So despite the controversies, the developers and publisher EA doubled down on what they thought was the right thing. Ooh, I like money. When Battlefield 5 launched, it got destroyed by fans of the franchise. The majority of players called it a downgrade compared to Battlefield 1, and when I played it in 2018, I actually had to agree. But is Battlefield 5 worth buying in 2022? Has the war stories aged well, and has the additional content that's been added, like the Pacific maps, improved the game, or just added more fluff to the game that was already heavily disliked? That's what I'm here to discuss, especially after that disaster that was Battlefield 2042. So, Andrew Wilson, who is the CEO of EA by the way, I hate you, but I don't hate the developers. So let's get into this. Let's start with the story, or narrative, whatever you want to call it.
Narrative. One of the most overused Zoomer words in modern day. D on top of overused here in this review. Fuck me. Is this as good as it gets? Happy smiley. Just say story selected.
And then we'll talk about the multiplayer, and I do have quite a bit to say after all these years. We're almost at 7,000 subscribers, which is just insane, as I always say, so thank you guys for all the support. Let's try and hit 10k this year. I'm hoping we can do it. Battlefield 5 goes down the same path as Battlefield 1 did with war stories. These are separate mini-stories with different characters, all from different backgrounds and perspectives, which definitely separated the Battlefield franchise from their competitors like Call of Duty.
Is taken from high-resolution scans of an actual SEAL team service dog. Every detail is replicated, right down to the scars on the nose and the...
Are they improved compared to Battlefield 1? No. They are without a doubt worse than Battlefield 1 war stories, not because the gameplay is worse, but they just, for me anyway, they just feel off. They all pretty much play the same, and it feels like a very dramatic retelling compared to Battlefield 1. Obviously Battlefield 1 was very, let's just say, not historically accurate, but it was a balance between historical accuracy and, you know, dramatic effect. Battlefield 5 seems to heavily favor the dramatic effect. The quality of the stories in terms of gameplay is actually really good, maybe even better than Battlefield 1, but it feels like they were held back in some way when it comes to creativity. The first two war stories play out the exact same, only just in a different location with different characters. Start the mission, infiltrate place, team up with the character you're with, then separate from said character and go take out 3 different locations labeled A, B, C, etc. and then the story is over. The stories themselves are very different for in my opinion, bad reasons, but it's the same gameplay loop, and honestly, I'm okay with that in all of the war stories apart from one, and that story is Nordless. I think that's how you say it. Nordless? Nordless? Nordlaz? Nordless. Now, before someone comments, you don't like the story because women, well, you're not wrong, but you're not right. Let me explain. So, DICE and EA have decided to do the war stories again, and that's cool. You have 6 years worth of war. Proper war stories, real war stories. And I'm sure there are plenty of stories that haven't been told yet, so it seems like a great and respectable endeavour, and I'm all for it. However, EA and DICE did the one thing you should never do when telling real stories. What was that mistake? Oh, I don't know. What about completely removing the real heroes from this story? Completely, they're not even mentioned till the end, and making up new characters for the story so the real heroes never actually get mentioned, and your fake characters can take credit for an incredibly important mission that actually happened. Now, there is some defense over it, because at the end of this mission, they say the real mission happened this way with this commando unit. The truth is, not many people are going to look at that. They've played the game, they're playing a game for a reason, and, you know, to take that important part out and place it at the end just seems really corporate to me. I can't really put it into words exactly why I hate it so much, but let's continue. The story DICE decided to tell is of a soldier infiltrating a base to rescue her mother, and then suddenly decide to do something heroic for her country by stopping the Germans from potentially creating nuclear weapons with heavy water, I think it is. So it's a pretty damn important story if you ask me if it actually happened. DICE completely replaced the real story, which was a group of Norwegian commandos infiltrating a facility, shed no blood whatsoever, and destroyed this facility, which actually stopped Germany from potentially creating nuclear weapons. I'm not too sure if they did create nuclear weapons. I'm not a history buff. You know, this is one of the things that bothers me, because it's such an important story. If they genuinely stopped Germany from making nuclear weapons, pretty damn important, and it's regarded as one of the most successful acts of sabotage of the war, which is clearly an incredible achievement. But nah, who cares about the soldiers who actually pulled it off? I just don't get that. I don't know why DICE decided to tell this story.
It is what it is. It is what it is.
Now, I could understand changing bits of the story for the sake of gameplay, and I get that, but like I said, there is 6 years worth of potential stories out there, and yet DICE decided to take a story that probably didn't need to be told in the gaming format and completely change it and proceed to insult anyone who called them out on this. I just think it's beyond scummy to do that, but what do you guys think? Could you accept a story like that being completely changed for the sake of gameplay or appealing to specific audiences? If there's 6 years worth of stories to be told, why would you pick the one story in a first-person shooter game where the commandos were so successful in infiltrating something they didn't even fire a damn bullet? At least that's what they say. It just doesn't make much sense to me. It seems like a big misdirection, and I don't know why they did it. Now, I want to make it clear before anyone comments, every story in Battlefield 1 and 5 are pretty damn inaccurate. I'm not going to sit here and say all the other stories are perfect recreations of a conflict we never saw. However, Nordlis, or however you say it, is the perfect example of how not to tell a story that basically replaces the real heroes. Well, it says at the end of the story that the commanders actually pulled it off, but that's even more insulting. Why did you tell their story but take them out of it? All you did was add a little bit of conflict, because in the real story they pulled it off without a drop of blood, which I would argue is even more heroic, because they didn't kill German soldiers that were probably there because they had to be. Not every German soldier was, you know the word, you know what I mean? Anyway, other than that, the war stories do have some very cool set-piece moments, but overall they're just a major step down from Battlefield 1 and felt a lot less sincere when compared. AI is still pretty terrible, and it's a breeze to play through normal difficulties, so I do recommend playing on harder difficulties, and it's just really forgettable. Each weapon feels different, but they feel like they do the same amount of damage. Obviously, for realism, if you shoot a bullet, someone should die, you know what I mean? But you might as well just run around with a pistol and hope for the best, which kind of takes away from, you know, the fun factor of mixing it up. And you can get a sniper or you can get a pistol, you can choose how to play it. There is a very cool story that was added after launch, which involved tanks, but we already experienced that in Battlefield 1. We've already had that World War I tank experience. I guess you could say, well, tanks were improved, sure, but you know, I didn't really see much of a point in it in the end. To add it at a later date, it just seems like waste potential when they could have worked on multiplayer. Each story has their own little gimmicks, which are cool and provides a bit of fun until you realise those gimmicks are kind of pointless when you could just run around, one-tap enemies and move on, despite attempting to infiltrate a base, but who cares? I'm expecting way too much from these single-player games today. Don't you guys feel like that now? Anytime a new AAA game comes out, you feel like you're expecting the bare minimum, but it also feels like you're expecting too much. Jesus. If you're enjoying this video, smash that like button and come chat to me in our Discord, link in the description. The single player is a major letdown even after all these years, but how's the multiplayer? Well, EA loves to sell online games to get you into microtransactions, but do you know what else companies love to sell? Your data, and that's where ExpressVPN comes in. Staying safe online is an ever-growing difficulty, and you could be exploited by hackers in so many different ways. ExpressVPN allows you to change your IP address, making you harder to track, securing your privacy, and also gives you access to all those Netflix shows that you can't get in your country. Your IP address is easily accessible, so it's important to protect it as best as you can. For $8 a month, I think it's worth it. You protect yourself and you get access to a bunch of entertainment you wouldn't usually get because you can change where you live in literally seconds, which is awesome in my opinion. If you're interested in protecting your privacy, click on the link down below to get 3 months for free with any 12-month subscription, and you have a 30-day money-back guarantee, so if you don't enjoy it or you don't think it's worth it, you can get your money back. Easy as that. Thank you to ExpressVPN for sponsoring this video.
Nice.
The multiplayer is a completely different story though. I have to say, after coming back from Battlefield 2042 and finally giving Battlefield 5 another shot, I was really surprised by how much I actually enjoyed the multiplayer. Battlefield moments are there that I don't remember seeing back in 2018, especially on the Pacific maps, which really blew me away. I love the Pacific maps. They are my go-tos now. There's nothing better than running around with a flamethrower and burning everyone. I sound like a bloody serial killer, oh my god. The ghost of what Battlefield 5 was still haunts it to this day, but it's so much better now. Weapons feel great, although snipers are really OP in my opinion, or I'm just good with them, you know, I'm just really good at first person shooters. I definitely don't break my desk every 2 minutes because I suck at them. Customization isn't ridiculous like Call of Duty Vanguard. It feels like a World War II shooter, which is exactly what you want when you're trying to recreate a World War II scenario. No way. Maps are pretty damn good. Visually, they're just incredible, and once again, the Pacific maps take the cake for visuals and design for me, but there are some duds like the recreation of Operation Metro from Battlefield 3. It overall feels a lot more rougher compared to the original version, and for whatever reason, it's a lot easier to spawn trap the enemy team or get spawn trapped yourself, so I'm not sure what really went wrong there, but you know, you can always play the original Metro on Battlefield 3 if you're on Xbox or PC, which I will be doing. I'm hoping to set something up for everyone in the Discord. If you have a PC, we can get on Battlefield 3 and just have a bit of a nostalgia moment, you know what I mean? So some of the maps are ass, but you can pick and choose which ones you really want by just leaving the game, since you don't get punished for it, which is nice, but it's not flawless like many multiplayer games. But Battlefield 5 hits more often than it misses, which is so nice to say after the disaster of Battlefield 2042. No operators, just pure Battlefield, teaming up with randoms to wipe out enemy teams. It's exactly what Battlefield was all about, with vehicles of course, and it just feels like it's been nailed here, finally, after years of fixes. It's very easy to get confused when you first boot up the game though, as the UI is pretty damn terrible in the main menu, and for some reason accessing your settings is in the extras option, which makes no sense and is unnecessarily complicated, but you know, once you learn where it is, it's fine, you can deal with it. But why are you making getting to the settings, which everyone is going to want to do, weirdly difficult? I mean, it's not difficult, but it doesn't make any sense from a efficiency standpoint anyway. The loadout system is complicated as well for no reason, which makes it a pain to start customizing your guns or characters. So I really don't understand how we're going backwards when it comes to the UI design, because Battlefield 2042 is far worse, which sucks to say, but it's true. Battlefield 5 works though, so I really can't complain too much. Guns feel great, they actually, they actually hit targets that you're shooting at, unlike Battlefield 2042. The maps are pretty, and the community, while toxic, is still alive and feels cool to be a part of in games. It's good to see crouching is still a universal sign of thanks. Hit registry, as I said, is fine. I never felt like I was cheated or anything like that, and servers are overall pretty stable, which is rare for Battlefield games. So is Battlefield 5 better than Battlefield 4 or 3 or 1, etc.? No, I don't think it is. I still think it's a far weaker game when compared to Battlefield 4 and 3, even Bad Company 2, and obviously those games have been around for far longer, but they still feel better in a lot of ways and feel more balanced, and overall, they're just more fun to play. I don't know, have you guys felt like when you go back to an old multiplayer game, you just feel like you're having more fun when compared to new games like Warzone or the newest Battlefield? I can't be the only one. Don't get me wrong, you can still have a lot of fun in Battlefield 5, but I really don't think anything will ever beat diving off Damavand Peak in Battlefield 3, or jumping off a giant skyscraper in Siege of Shanghai, or Bad Company 2 just wiping the map out. It's just, those moments are missing here. I'm really hoping we do get another Bad Company with smaller maps and more destruction, as even Battlefield 3 and 4 feels so lackluster in that department. So, should you buy Battlefield 5? Yeah, I do think you should buy Battlefield 5. I think it's worth the money now, especially if it's on sale. I play it on Game Pass, so I would advise people to play it on Game Pass first and maybe purchase it fully if you have a good enough time. But if you don't have that option, if you're on PlayStation, I do think it's worth your money. I wouldn't spend more than, I'd say, $25 on it at this point, because obviously it's an old game. You don't want to keep giving EA loads of money because they're scumbags, but you know, not the developers, just Andrew Wilson. But yeah, that's my thoughts. What do you guys think? Leave your comments down below. Thank you for watching.